I think it's massively bullish for gold. And when we talk about, to your point, the treasury reserve capacity, look, the treasury can be weaponized. Who the hell wants to hold treasuries anymore that are weaponized? And when you look at gold, it's outperformed the treasury market for 50 years, just now doubled the performance over the last 25 years without the risk, without the geopolitical risk, the confiscatory risk, the sanction risk. So yeah, I do think it will be incredibly bullish for gold. And I also think if you read that white paper, they talk a little bit about the fact that what will start out as a common settlement currency, this unit, will turn into something valued more than just the gold value. It will have a supply-demand fundamental.
After testing resistance at $2,400 an ounce on Friday, the gold market has seen its bullish momentum wane. Gold has outperformed all other asset classes in the current calendar year so far, not only maintaining its physical allure, but also generating substantial returns. Worsening geopolitical tensions, including wars in the Middle East and Ukraine, along with the prospect of lower U.S. interest rates, have all bolstered gold's appeal as an investment. Andy Schectman, president and owner of Miles Franklin, shares his bullish sentiments for gold, indicating that it has outperformed the Treasury market for 50 years and has recently doubled its performance over the last 25 years. Major central banks worldwide, especially in Asia, are actively diversifying their foreign exchange reserves away from the U.S. dollar. China has been leading this effort by reducing its holdings of U.S. Treasuries and purchasing substantial amounts of gold instead. Additionally, the Central Bank of Russia has replaced the U.S. dollar with China's yuan as the benchmark for all currency trades in the country. Meanwhile, the petrodollar system formally expired on June 9th, marking the 50th anniversary of the military and economic pact signed in 1974. According to media reports, Saudi Arabia has chosen not to renew the agreement. Andy emphasizes that once trust is broken, it's as challenging as trying to repair shattered glass. Therefore, he views the ongoing shift towards gold accumulation by central banks as highly favorable for gold. He suggests that this trend could potentially lead to a revaluation of gold's price or an expansion of the gold market to accommodate the increasing demand. Media reports indicate that the BRICS nations, now wealthier than the G7 and accounting for 1/3 of the world's GDP, are discussing the launch of a BRICS cryptocurrency potentially backed by gold. Before we explore further, be sure to subscribe and click the bell to stay tuned for more engaging content.
Of the U.S. system, the credit is upside down. We're nearly 130% debt to GDP. We're very much indebted, nearly 200 trillion in debt. And when you talk about the faith, what faith do you have in a system that weaponizes and outright steals Russian assets? And so when you talk about faith, I don't know what faith there is in the system, and that's what he's getting at. That's a scary thing. And that's why I think we're seeing all of these central banks accumulate gold. And that fabulous interview that you did a few weeks ago, and this is the reason why all of these countries are accumulating gold and repatriating it, because it will be part of a new system. It will be pegged to a new system, which will eliminate the need for faith. And you only get one chance. When you ruin credibility and trust and faith, it's almost impossible to put back together. It's like smashing a glass against the wall. How do you put it back together? I don't know that we can. So I think that is true. It is about the faith, and faith that arguably has been squandered. The price of gold would have to be either revalued, or you would have to expand the gold market. But by seeing all of these countries bring their gold back and accumulate it in the levels that they are, I think it's massively bullish for gold. And the treasury reserve capacity, look, the treasury can be weaponized. Who the hell wants to hold treasuries anymore that are weaponized? And when you look at gold, it's outperformed the treasury market for 50 years, just now doubled the performance over the last 25 years without the risk, without the geopolitical risk, the confiscatory risk, the sanction risk. So yeah, I do think it will be incredibly bullish for gold. And I also think if you read that white paper, they talk a little bit about the fact that what will start out as a common settlement currency, this unit, will turn into something valued more than just the gold value. It will have a supply-demand fundamental. And if all of a sudden we move to a system that inspires trust, rather than one where they have to rely upon a government that is broke, insolvent, and going around the world and imposing their will in what is viewed as a hypocritical position, yeah, the demand for the unit could explode and it could become, as the paper describes, a unit of settlement that actually becomes worth more than the underlying assets based upon supply and demand. But to your point, yeah, the gold market will expand and will be revalued, or a combination of the both.
India's central bank probably increased its gold reserves by the most in almost 2 years last month, according to a World Gold Council analyst. The Reserve Bank of India added more than 9 tons in June, based on calculations using weekly data from the bank. China's central bank, the People's Bank of China (PBOC), chose not to increase its gold reserves for the second month in a row in June, as reported by the World Gold Council. The bank's bullion holdings remained steady at 72.8 million troy ounces at the end of the month, with official data indicating that China's gold reserves stand at 2,264 tons, equivalent to this amount. This ends an 18-month streak of consistent monthly purchases that began in November 2022 and contributed to record-high gold prices. Schectman dismisses the idea that China has stopped buying gold as conjecture and propaganda. He believes they are likely increasing their gold accumulation, but not through state channels that report to the IMF. Now let's delve into the video.
We haven't reported or done anything to clarify just how much gold is there, even at the behest of Ron Paul, who was voted down, yes, by Congress. I don't know who voted him down, but they never did allow the audit to happen. Why would it be in the vested interest of a country like China to tell us the truth? You know, they tell us they only have about 2,600 metric tons of gold, yet since 2000, at least, they've been producing anywhere between 400 and 500 metric tons a year. Even call it 200 metric tons a year. The numbers would be extraordinarily higher than what they are. And my entire career, Chris, everyone would always say that the Chinese are very much not forthright with how much gold they accumulate. In fact, their numbers would stay around 1,200 metric tons forever, and they would never update them. And I think it would be in their vested interest to keep that close to the vest. And I think it's phooey. Aside from that, you know, much of the gold could be accumulated by their state-owned proxy banks that would then, at the behest of the PBOC, accumulate metal, not be forthright about it, not report it to the IMF, deal directly with the refineries in South Africa and Switzerland, not report that to the IMF. Why would they? And if they realize that just by lip service, just by saying that, they can knock the price down and subsidize their future purchases, it would be in their vested interest. And if someday, as the head of the Dutch National Bank talks about, we see a gold revaluation, well, look at how much gold we actually have. And here it is, come and audit it. And now it's revalued to a much higher level. So just like it doesn't do any good to talk about the trades that these institutions are making to crowd themselves out, as people are gobbling up information at the speed of sound, why would they want to tell us that this is our primary objective, to accumulate all the gold? So no, I don't believe it. I think it's nothing but conjecture. I don't care who's saying it. I think it's propaganda. I don't think they've stopped buying gold. In fact, they're probably increasing it, just not running it through state-owned state channels that reported to the IMF. Gold back from the New York Fed and the Bank of England recently, the biggest being, of course, India, who bought 1.5 times the amount of gold in 2024. They bought 1.5 times the amount of gold in the first 4 months of this year than they did all of last year, and repatriated it along with 100 metric tons held at the Bank of England. And you mentioned Saudi Arabia and Egypt and all of these African countries repatriating from the New York Fed, which gives access to COMEX, and the Bank of England, which gives access to the LBMA. They don't care that they have access to these hubs of easy trading. They would rather remove the counterparty risk and bring it home. I think that's a great point.
For centuries, gold has been cherished for its rarity and intrinsic value. Unlike fiat currencies, which are vulnerable to inflationary pressures and government interventions, gold has historically demonstrated resilience by maintaining or even appreciating its worth over extended periods. Demand for gold from central banks has been elevated in the past 2 years, as several countries diversify their foreign currency reserves. The PBOC was the largest official sector buyer of gold in 2023, with its biggest addition since at least 1977. Although China didn't officially buy any gold last month, other central banks continue to build their reserves. Global instability spurs a surge in yellow metal prices. Will countries return to the gold standard? Your opinion matters. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Hit the like button if you enjoyed this. and subscribe to stay informed on our journey together.